Here's what happened across the U.S. in the past hour, all in 60 seconds. On Tuesday, the White House launched a new January 6th website that downplays the 2021 Capitol attack and repeats election fraud claims that officials have rejected. Critics said it misstates key facts and shifts blame for security failures. On Tuesday, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said she deployed 2,000 agents to Minneapolis and St. Paul for immigration raids and a widening fraud investigation. Somali community members said the operations are prompting fear and more questioning. On Tuesday, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp set March 10th as the special election to replace Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's a single all-party ballot with a runoff April 7 if no candidate wins a majority. On Tuesday, President Trump said the U.S. would move to control Venezuelan oil revenues after the operation that captured Nicolas Maduro. Acting leader Delcy Rodriguez rejected outside control as allies, and the UN criticized the raid. On Tuesday, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz said he won't seek a third term and will spend his final year pushing back on President Trump. He told state Republicans to put up or shut up on helping Minnesota. On Tuesday, an Iranian opposition group said protesters took control of the western cities of Abdeni and Malik-Shahi, with crowds chanting against Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Separately, images showed protesters appealing to President Trump for protection. On Wednesday, the Trump administration froze more than $10 billion in federal child care and family assistance funds for 5 Democratic-led states, citing fraud concerns. HHS said access will be restricted while it reviews spending and verification. Here's what happened across the U.S. in the past hour, all in 60 seconds. Russia sent a submarine to escort a tanker once called Bella 1 after the U.S. tried to seize it, officials said. The escort complicates U.S. efforts to enforce Venezuela oil sanctions. President Trump said this week his supporters loved the U.S. operation that seized Nicolas Maduro in Caracas. Democrats argue he bypassed Congress and are pushing votes to curb future military action. Ousted Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro spent Tuesday night in a federal jail in Brooklyn after pleading not guilty in New York. U.S. officials briefed lawmakers as questions grow over elections and oil policy. The Justice Department sued Connecticut on Tuesday, saying the state failed to provide voter registration list data required under federal law. State election officials said privacy rules limit what can be released. The Wyoming Supreme Court struck down 2 near-total abortion bans on Tuesday, including a ban on abortion pills. The ruling keeps abortion legal statewide and leaves lawmakers to pursue a constitutional amendment. Representative Doug LaMalfa, a California Republican, died at 65 after a medical emergency, narrowing the GOP House margin. State officials will schedule a special election to fill his seat. Sen. Mark Kelly said Tuesday he would not change his message urging troops to refuse illegal orders, even after a Pentagon censure. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth called the video inappropriate. Here's what happened across the U.S. in the past hour, all in 60 seconds. U.S. Northern Command said about 500 federalized National Guard troops in Portland, Los Angeles, and Chicago are being demobilized and sent home. The troops had supported immigration enforcement over governors' objections. At a House GOP retreat Tuesday, President Trump urged Republicans to be flexible on the Hyde Amendment as they negotiate an ACA subsidy extension. Leaders fear higher premiums could trigger midterm backlash. Energy experts say U.S. plans to revive Venezuela's oil industry could displace some Canadian crude in American refineries. Canadian lawmakers are urging new pipeline capacity as China's influence in Venezuela shrinks. Trump officials told lawmakers that Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, hit their heads while trying to flee U.S. forces during their arrest. Flores' lawyer requested medical exams after court appearances showed injuries. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said some news outlets learned of the Venezuela raid early, but held it to protect U.S. troops. He said the administration kept Congress in the dark to prevent leaks. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee declined to opt into the federal Sunbucks program for summer 2026, leaving the state without millions for grocery benefits. County leaders say low-income kids will feel it most. The Pentagon reached a framework deal with Lockheed Martin to boost PAC-3 and MSE interceptor production to over 2,000 a year, more than tripling output. The 7-year agreement awaits an initial contract award. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani swore in Lillian Bonsignore as FDNY commissioner on Tuesday. The former EMS chief will oversee fire and emergency medical operations across the